The coffee aisle in Canadian supermarkets hides a lucrative deception disguised as a premium morning beverage. Major grocery chains routinely sell stale, low-grade beans packaged as high-end light roasts, charging top dollar for a product that lost its flavor months ago. This video breaks down exactly how the light roast trend became a massive supermarket trap by 2026. You will learn the hidden mechanics of coffee supply chains, why those bright bags taste like cardboard, and how to spot the deceptive dating tactics used by massive food corporations. A genuine light roast exists to highlight the natural, bright, and fruity flavors of an exceptional coffee bean. Coffee roasters pull the beans from the heat much earlier than traditional dark roasts, which preserves delicate floral aromas and complex organic acids. The resulting cup should taste vibrant and sweet, but this exact roasting method creates a highly fragile product. These delicate flavor compounds rely on natural gases trapped inside the bean immediately after roasting. Those gases dissipate entirely within 3 weeks, leaving behind a flat and lifeless shell of a coffee bean. That rapid decay causes a massive problem for large-scale grocery distribution. Canadian supermarkets operate on timelines that simply cannot accommodate a 3-week shelf life. Corporate buyers purchase massive quantities of coffee at once, storing pallets in massive distribution centers before slowly trickling them out to individual retail stores across the country. And that is when the trouble begins for your morning cup. The journey from an industrial roasting facility to a shelf at a major Canadian grocery store takes far longer than most shoppers realize. A typical bag of coffee spends 4 to 6 months moving through the corporate supply chain before a customer ever picks it up. Distribution trucks haul these pallets across massive geographical distances, exposing the beans to extreme temperature changes along the highway. The coffee then sits in regional warehouses, waiting for retail managers to place their weekly inventory orders. And this extended timeline absolutely destroys a light roast. By day 45, the volatile organic compounds that provide those bright, fruity flavors completely vanish into the air. What nobody expected was that grocery giants would simply ignore this scientific reality. Store managers place these bags on the premium shelf anyway, slapping a high price tag on a product that essentially died months ago in a warehouse outside Toronto or Calgary. The result is a cup of coffee that tastes absolutely nothing like the roaster intended. If you find these industry breakdowns helpful, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We release corporate deep dives like this every single week. Now let us look at the beans themselves. Massive corporate coffee brands build their entire business model around purchasing the cheapest possible agricultural products. Buyers routinely source low-grade beans filled with insect damage, mold, and severe deformities. Historically, they relied entirely on dark roasting to burn away the terrible flavors, pushing the beans to a near-burnt state, which masks those defects behind a wall of heavy, bitter ash. The modern coffee market changed as consumers shifted their preferences toward lighter coffees, forcing these same corporate brands to adapt. Instead of upgrading their green coffee quality, which would destroy their profit margins, they simply stopped roasting their cheap beans as long. This led to a catastrophic flavor problem, because a light roast provides absolutely nowhere for bad flavors to hide, meaning every single defect in that cheap bean becomes immediately obvious the second hot water hits the coffee grounds. Brewing a lightly roasted, low-grade, supermarket bean creates a remarkably unpleasant sensory experience. Without the heavy charcoal flavors of a dark roast to cover them up, the defects dominate the entire cup. Drinkers routinely describe these supermarket bags as tasting like wet cardboard, sour milk, or lawn clippings. The sourness comes directly from underdeveloped acids in cheap coffee cherries that never properly ripened before harvest. True specialty coffee features a pleasant, sweet acidity similar to a fresh apple or berry. Supermarket light roasts produce a harsh, battery acid sourness that aggressively coats your tongue and ruins the morning ritual. Consumers started blaming themselves, assuming they simply did not know how to brew a proper light roast at home. The reality involves no user error whatsoever. You cannot extract good flavors from a seed that never contained them in the first place, regardless of how expensive your brewing equipment happens to be. Food manufacturers use incredibly deceptive packaging labels to hide the age of their products from Canadian shoppers. Walk down any coffee aisle in 2026, and you'll notice that almost every major brand uses a generic best before date. These dates often stretch a full 12 months past the actual day the coffee left the roasting machine. This creates a psychological illusion of freshness, where a shopper sees a date projecting into 2027 and naturally assumes the coffee inside the bag remains perfectly fine. The sealed environment tells a completely different story entirely. Coffee is a baked agricultural product, not a synthetic chemical compound, so it begins oxidizing the moment it interacts with oxygen. It steadily loses its aromatic properties day by day. Supermarkets heavily rely on these distant expiration dates to minimize their financial losses from unsold inventory, prioritizing a long shelf life over actual beverage quality, and leaving the consumer paying for dead beans. The physical degradation of a coffee bean happens through a rapid process called degassing. During the roasting phase, immense heat forces carbon dioxide to build up inside the cellular structure of the bean. This trapped gas acts as a natural preservative, pushing oxygen away from the delicate flavor oils. A light roast inherently contains less trapped gas than a dark roast because it spends less time absorbing heat in the roasting drum. This means a light roast loses its protective barrier much faster. Once the carbon dioxide escapes, oxygen floods into the bean and immediately turns the oils rancid. Nitrogen-flushed bags attempt to slow this process down, but the protection vanishes entirely the second you break the seal in your kitchen. This rapid oxidation explains exactly why that expensive supermarket bag smells vaguely like stale peanuts instead of the bright citrus notes promised on the colorful packaging. The chemistry simply does not support long-term storage. Escaping this corporate trap requires changing exactly where you source your morning beans. Every major Canadian city now features independent coffee roasters who operate completely outside the grocery store distribution network, purchasing high-grade, green coffee directly from farmers to entirely avoid the commercial junk market. Identifying a legitimate light roast requires exactly one simple step. You must look strictly for a specific roasted-on date stamped directly on the packaging. Legitimate coffee companies proudly display the exact day the beans left the machine, and if you only see a generic best before date projecting into the future, walk away. You want beans roasted within the last 14 to 21 days, which means taking the extra time to visit a local cafe or ordering directly from a Canadian roaster's website. Supermarkets rely entirely on convenience to sell you an inferior product, but buying direct guarantees you finally taste the bright flavors you actually paid for. Supermarket light roasts represent everything wrong with the modern grocery industry, trading actual quality for long shelf lives and deceptive marketing. You do not have to settle for sour, cardboard-tasting coffee just because a massive corporation put it in a pretty bag. By checking for roast dates and buying local, you immediately fix your morning cup. If you found this breakdown of supermarket tactics helpful, subscribe to the channel for more industry deep dives every week.